Hey everybody, welcome to Eden Fractal meeting 75. At least I think so. I'm here with Rosmari right now. We're going to do a little bit of a different show. We can share the presentation, show where we're at right now. But right now it's just Rosmari and I. We had a little time change, so I don't know if people got confused, or also we've been talking how we've been going for almost a year and a half. And in a lot of meetings, there's like 15 people, 20 people, and so forth. But there's been less people lately, and today there's just two of us. So we're gonna see how it goes and maybe talk about it a little bit. I also put up some topics and proposals on the agenda, so maybe we'll get into those and just kind of brainstorm on the best next steps and where we're at and stuff like that. So, Rosmari, how are you? I could share a little presentation to give a little more introduction, but first, if you'd like to share anything or say hello, then of course you're welcome, and we're happy to hear from you. Hope that everybody's doing well, by the way, if you're watching this, if you're having a great day.
Hey, hi everyone. And hi Dan. Yes, I'm glad I'm here. So it is a pivotal point, I think. I've been feeling it, feeling it coming. And it's towards the end of the year, 8th of November. I mean, I feel kind of tired. There's time change, change in time, all sorts of things going around the world. It's kind of hard to keep track. I'm trying to keep track. At the same time, the more I try, the less I know in a way of what actually is happening, because I can never catch up. So it's all good, I guess. It's kind of maybe gets a challenge to get people's attention with so many things going on and people being generally busier than ever compared to previous years, because of the speed of things and how everything evolves, and especially even AI, and there's a lot going on in general. So I'm here. I'm here to support and brainstorm on ways that we can provide good, valuable content and be real about how things are. And I'm looking forward to hear what you have to say.
All right, sounds great. Thank you, Rosmari, very much. I really appreciate you being here and collaborating with me. It's a huge pleasure. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into it with you about uh, how to keep up with everything in the best way to provide as much value for everybody and accomplishing the things that you mentioned there. So I suppose I'll share a little presentation to share a little bit where we're at and what we've been doing lately and what we're thinking about doing as well. And then we'll take the conversation from there. Of course, Rosemary, feel free to jump in at any point too. And we're going to show a little bit about EdenFractal.com, as we often do at the beginning of Eden Fractal meetings. So welcome for anybody who's watching. Hope once again you're enjoying your day wherever you are. We're a community that creates animated games and shows and tools. And over the course of the past year and a half, there's been about 80 people or so who have joined Eden Fractal meetings. And as I said before, there was usually like 15 people, and then there was 10 people, then so forth. Um, in the past weeks there was like 6 or 7 people, 8 people, so we noticed that the attendance is going down, but we're still a community though, and there's still many amazing people in the chats and in all the videos. You can watch all our videos at edenpark.com/videos, and we're figuring out the best steps to take. This is as many communities go through periods of growth and periods of reflection and so forth. So I suppose we're entering a period of reflection, determining the best way to guide and lead the community in the coming weeks and months. And that's also related to the topics on the agenda. So we have published the most recent videos, or actually most of them. So the 72nd meeting, we're at the 75th. So we're going to come at the 73rd and 74th quite soon. But you can check out here about all the cool things we've been doing, creating public goods for the world and fractal fruits, and building regeneration nations and helping people cooperate. We've also been doing initiatives with Optimism as well. We have a long history, and you could scroll through here to see many, many, many amazing episodes and countless hours of amazing discussions and so forth. Huge thanks to Rosmari for playing a huge role, helping to edit and produce these videos, as well as lead the conversations in them as well. And huge thanks to everybody who's participated in these discussions as well, and made Eden Fractal so special over the past year and a half. And I'm very excited for our future. And I'm also very excited for this conversation that we're about to have right now and these new seasons we can embark on as well. Anyway, I can keep scrolling down, but you get the idea. There's a lot more episodes. We only got half of the episodes there. You can check out youtube.com/@EdenCreators to check out all the videos as well, in addition, as well as short clips that we've been making, as well as Optimism Fractal videos that we've been making, which is a new community that we started. I started with Rosmari and also Vlad and Tadas over the past few months, and a bunch of other shows that we've been creating. Fractal Apple, Eden Town Hall, Creator Talk Community Story, shout outs, lots of cool stuff we're doing here. And you can check out t.me/EdenFractal to get involved in the community. Rosemary's putting out great message every week. And we're also working on refining our promotions too, so that we can, well, one, attract more people to these meetings, and then two, just give people more great experiences. You can check out lu.ma/EdenFractal to register and get weekly reminders for the Eden Fractal meetings and learn more about what we're doing here. I encourage you all to join and invite friends. We'd love to see you and we'd love to meet you. And we also host another event each week too called Optimism Fractal. These are on Mondays. Eden Fractal is every Wednesday at 16 UTC. Optimism Fractal is every Monday at 17 UTC. So you can check out here and learn more. There's also optimismfractal.com, and there's Discord and X accounts for both of these. So you can learn more about each of these communities. We'd love to be able to meet you at both of these communities. Eden Fractal. Well, that's one of the things about today's topics being proposed. So what is the goal of Eden Fractal? What is the mission and so forth? So that's one of the things I propose that we'll get into a little bit. In Optimism, it's about helping the Optimism community, and Eden Fractal, I think, is generally about helping fractal communities and making the best experience possible. We can get more into that. Normally, we play the respect game now. We play Eden plus Fractal, which is a combination of elections and fractals. This is an article I wrote last year, back when Tadas proposed this in October 2nd, 2022, which is over a year ago now. So we've had lots of stuff going on. So normally we'd go into breakout rooms if we had enough people, and then play the respect game where people earn respect by helping out the community. But for today, I think we'll skip that because there's just two of us. Maybe other people will join. We'll see. There is an article actually, because we just launched this new brand called Optimystics, which we're really excited about. And this is partially where a lot of our attention has been too. So we're planning to bring Eden Fractal new life with the Optimistics brand, and also with the Optimism Fractal and so forth. But yeah, I had written this article about what is respect. It's things that we can do when we play the respect game and all the benefits of that. But anyway, we can get into another time. Basically, we're going to skip the respect game, I think, for this week. Maybe we'll share a little bit what we've been doing with Optimistics and Optim Fractal and stuff like that. But more so, I think this is best suited as a kind of brainstorming session and a agendas game too. And we'll see how long we go. But anyway, you can check out optimistics.io if you want to learn about our recent progress and all the cool stuff that we're doing. Really exciting stuff here. Bringing the innovations of Eden Fractal to the world and promoting with both Eden Fractal and Optimism Fractal. Much more here too that we can explore. But anyway, what we're going to do, I think, since we'll skip the respect game, we'll just go jump right into the agendas game. Or perhaps if it's just the two of us, we can kind of host a show and talk about whatever we want. But if we want to provide some structure, we always play agendas each week where people can create agendas together and coordinate on topics and make decisions together. And I was thinking last week, we had an interesting meeting last week, and it made me think that it'd be good to add some more structure to meetings and figure out the best ways to go forward. Like Rosmari was saying, this is kind of a lot to keep up with. We're kind of saying we're kind of tired because we kind of have been doing this nonstop for a year and a half straight, and we're thinking of the best way to just grow it. I remember Eric shared some great ideas a few weeks ago about having it more like a sport or something like that, where people know the scores. And Rosmari and I have been talking about that a lot too. So I proposed a topic about the seasons of Eden Fractal, and I wrote that upvote this topic to discuss a seasonal structure for Eden Fractal and an idea to pilot the first Eden Fractal playoffs in the coming weeks. Natural metaphors and sports analogies may occur. So we can get into that, and that's kind of like the main kind of concept, like figure out the next season of Eden Fractal, and the idea of generally doing seasons so we have more time to prepare and promote and get everything in order as much as possible. Some things, because we've been going constantly, we haven't had time to do all the maintenance that we'd love to do. So I think that Seasons of Eden Fractal could be really helpful to make it more exciting, like a sport, like an event. Like in sports, you have seasons, and people play for part of the year and then they recover for parts of the year and so forth. And I had an idea for playoffs too, where we could play some games, like we played the speeches game and pitches game recently, more consensus games to help create public goods and so forth. So we can get more into that, but that's a high level overview. The other proposals I made is proposing a mission. So a lot of these have articles too. I didn't actually think of it, but we've discussed Eden Fractal's mission many times. If you go to edencreators.com/mission, you can see an article which also needs to be updated at some point, but it has lots of information about Eden Fractal's mission, because over the past starting in like week 30 or so, over the past just about year now, we've been making lots of proposals for missions. There's been about 10 proposals for missions And we've had several discussions for an hour or two about this with community members about our vision and agreement and so forth. I did an episode with Vlad about this called Discussing Eden Fractal Stuff. Also an article about vision too, and there's timestamps. So like this has been something that we've discussed quite a lot. For whatever reason, that link isn't loading now. I think it's because I have to go to edenfractal.com/38 if I want to see that one, for example. But yeah, basically we've discussed this a lot in like 5 different meetings or so. You could check out here if you wanted to review. And this was back when, there was like 16 people here all discussing Eden Fractal's mission and figuring out the best way to go forward with Eden Fractal. We also discussed agreement, but yeah, we never actually came to consensus about mission. And to me, this idea of growing fractal communities, that's something that I recently thought of that phrase, and I really like it's growing fractal communities. And that's something we've been doing already. Like Eden Fractal has sprouted out many fractal communities already that are thriving in their own ways, and we're going to make the best experience possible as big goals. So that's what I put down from the mission there. Curious to hear your thoughts, Rosmari. If anybody's watching, curious to hear your thoughts if you want to share in t.me/Eden Fractal. The other ones I put up were TP75, which is just the 75th meeting topic or a proposal. The goal of the Eden Fractal Respect game is to achieve our mission and to help community members. So yeah, I've been thinking about how we can have the mission and have the goal of the game. And they could be the same thing or they could be separate, but it's like when you're playing the respect game, then what do you rank people's contributions by? And to me, it seems like it makes the most sense where the goal is to achieve our mission and also to help community members. So the mission is to grow fractal communities and also make the best experience possible. And then the mission is, or the goal of the game is to do those to achieve our mission and to help our community members. So people can share what they're doing to help grow fractal communities. It kind of goes along with Tadas's idea for higher order fractals, where people could share whether they're building, people have been building Alien Worlds Fractal, AW Fractal. We've been building the Optimism Fractal as well. Gudasol has been building Aquadac. Many people like Tadas and Vlad have been building tools for fractal communities to thrive and to grow. Myself and Rosmari are making a lot of content to help communities grow fractal processes, I should say. So that's a mission that I proposed here, and also help our community members. I think that's a big point. We need to both look outward into helping how we can help the world, and inward too, to how we can help each other at the meetings. And when we do that, we all become more capable at achieving our goals too. So if we do, we're not actually able to approve any of these proposals formally with the condensed process of Eden Fractal today, because it's just the two of us. And the way we have it works is the Eden plus Fractal process. We have a certain amount of delegates who need to approve it. Right now, I think that Perry and Tadas and maybe Space Wrangler Joe and maybe one other person, maybe I think Eric is a delegate. So currently we don't have enough people in the council to approve it. So we'll just have a discussion about this, and maybe we'll publish it, and maybe we'll have it again next week. But yeah, basically, these are two of the topics I proposed, and I figured to go along with having the seasons and having a playoff, it's like, well, what are you going to compete in the playoff for? I think it's good to have a mission for that, and I think it's good to have a game goal. Also, we could have specific games in the seasons or in the playoff season, which we can get into a little bit. I can share more thoughts about that now or in the future, but that's kind of a high-level overview, how these overlink. And then also, the other one is Eden Fractal's intents. So Eden Fractal's intents are to award public goods creators, foster collaboration, and improve coordination. And this is, it kind of goes along with what we worked on for Optimism Fractal. I started thinking just about how the mission and intent can be two different things. Also, the work of Optimism Collective, they set intents every season, which I think is really interesting. And I think this is a good way, like these are 3 different aspects of how we're accomplishing these goals of growing fractal communities and making the best experience possible. So that's why I put this here. In previous seasons or in previous weeks when we talked about the mission, we talked a lot about doing public goods or creating public goods, fostering collaboration, and improving human coordination has also been a big topic too. I know that Sync has been leading on that initiative, the former developers of Fractally. So yeah, basically, I think that this is a way between the mission, the game goal, and the intent that we can kind of cover a lot of the stuff that we're doing, but put it in a language that makes sense and it's quite simpler. So I'm curious to your thoughts about this. Also, the idea about awarding public goods creators, that's something that we came up with Optimism Fractal as well. And the fact that what we're aiming to do here is we're playing consensus games. We're doing the public goods games where people can get awards for public goods creators. So we can give trophies, or right now what we give is respect on chain, which is very nice. And over time, we can get more and more awards. And we've already been doing that a lot and fostering collaboration and improving human coordination. So we can get more into that, but that's a high level overview there. And then the last thing that I wrote here, which was inspired by a discussion with Rosmari earlier, and we've been having this discussion a lot, is just, and also here we've had this discussion quite a bit over the last year and a half about creating a participant agreement. So when we first started doing fractal communities, we did the Genesis Fractal community, and there was an agreement there that people signed to make sure that everybody like kind of agreed to the same terms and understood what was going on. And so I thought about putting this in this topic proposal as well, or this proposal. Again, I proposed this like 3 or 4 times in the past, but we never approved it. We had like great discussions about it. So I put it up again, just the same one that we put up back in like week 48. We kind of put it on hold because it's not like the hugest priority, and we're kind of just being chill and cool with everybody and doing their best and having a mutual understanding. But we are expecting and aiming to grow in the near term, and we do want to have more clarity about these things. Like, for example, there's 2 terms in here that I put a very simple agreement. One is speaking English, and 2 is sharing videos on social media. So this agreement, it just kind of starting it, and we could always take it from there. You can check it out. There's an IPFS document here where it has a little bit more details about language, speaking English, and then 2, consenting to record and share video calls and stuff like that. So that's something we discussed, because we're publishing a lot of these videos on YouTube, as I mentioned before, and we're just having some sort of agreement, I think is helpful, so we can know what we can publish, especially as we're starting to publish more short form content and clips. We'd love to be able to promote it more effectively and be sure that everybody's cool with it. We're working on systems to make it so that people can opt in or opt out when they're cool with being on video as they wish, as they go. But yeah, basically I figured just the combination of these 3 or 4 proposals, having Seasons of Eden Fractal, along with a mission, along with a goal of the game, as well as the intents and agreement, I think it puts us in a good position where we can like really grow and have a focused mission and have a focused way of growing and you know, kind of just have like the ship ready to go. Basically, one more thing I can add on this too about the Seasons of Eden Fractal 2 is that I'm thinking, we mentioned it could be helpful to have time off from Eden Fractal or any from meetings. Like if you look at like the FIFA, the FIFA or NFL or NBA or baseball or whatever sport, like people take time off in the seasons. Also, there's many communities in Web3 like Optimism Collective that does this too. They play for 3 months and then they take a month off or 2 months off or something like that. And I think that we've been thinking about games, Eden Fractal games. Like I have this article, edencreators.com/games, where we talk about the games that we're playing, consensus games like Eden, like the Respect game and Agendas, and we're also playing the Pitches game and so forth. So basically, I mean, there's a lot in this article about the philosophy of games and how games can help us in the various consensus games that we've been experimenting with. You can explore. We've done so much work here, and I hope you'll enjoy it, exploring all the cool stuff that we're doing. But yeah, basically, I'm thinking that it might be best to kind of regroup a little bit. I was thinking about maybe starting a playoff season where it depends how many people join too. So I was thinking we have a pitches game back in week 55, week 56, and like week 30 or like 41 and 42, we did some pitches games and some speeches game. And we actually debuted it during the Eden Fractal anniversary meeting, our 1-year anniversary, where we used the new Signals app, and we had these games about gamifying public goods, inventing games for public goods, and Pamela Grant's pitch sessions and so forth. Basically, we made this game called Pitches, which is a social coordination game where players compete to share the best pitches of public goods, and then the peers rank each other's pitches. We use Signals and Slido, and then there were some rewards. So people shared what they're doing to create public goods, and everybody in the community formed consensus about how much they should be rewarded for doing so. So that was a really neat event that we did, and I was thinking we could do a similar thing for promoting fractals, because what we're doing here with fractals is like profoundly helpful for everybody. And I think most people who are watching this or have been following along for a while, participating in these meetings, know like this is a really great thing for humanity. It's a really great thing for communities, something that can greatly help you and your community. But we need to get the word out better. And the fact that there's just the 2 of us right now means that we have some work to do with promoting it. And so this is an idea that we could have a playoff season where we're working to promote it and share our thoughts about it and so forth. And then that combined with the ability to do short form videos and have a specific mission and so forth can be a way to take what we're doing and take the benefits of it and bring it to a much larger scale, so that it's not just our community or these 10 or 15 fractal communities so far, but we are growing fractal communities and helping thousands. Well, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but for next step is dozens, hundreds, thousands, and eventually millions of communities empowering with these processes. And I think when we get all of our things in order, then we can really do great things for each other and for the world. So that's kind of the high level overview. I know that's kind of a lot of information, so thank you, Rosmari, for listening. And there's Tadas too. So Tadas is joining now. I'll admit Tadas to the room. And Rosmari, I'm curious to hear what you think about that. Also, we can welcome Tadas too if Tadas is here. Hey, Tadas.
Hey.
Hey, Tadas.
What happened? Where is Eden Fractal?
Yeah, well, it was just the two of us. Nobody else joined. So this is Eden Fractal. We figured we'd do a recording. We didn't play the respect game. Maybe we can because we have 3 people now. I don't know if we can play with 3 people. I guess we could. But we just figured we'd do like kind of like a brainstorming session, and I just did a presentation about the topics that I proposed or suggested. And we are recording right now, by the way, so I could share it with you. And if you want one, I can give you a high-level overview of where we're at, and curious to hear your thoughts too.
Well, I saw the topics in the chat, so I'm kind of familiar.
Cool.
Yeah, so I guess
Is something you want to add? You're trying to figure out. I think Rosmari was. I just had a lot too, so I don't know if Rosmari want to comment on that, or maybe if Rosmari you want to introduce a little bit of anything you think might be relevant for Tadas. But yeah, basically high level overview. We're kind of winging it right now because we figure like normally we play the second, we have the structure, but we figure it's best to record something, and also it's a good opportunity to kind of like some self-reflection too. So and a lot of these topics I proposed were about self-reflection, is about like what's the best it all kind of revolved on this idea of seasons, and maybe taking a step back and figure out the best way to go forward with Eden Fractal, and then going forward with the mission and goal of the game and intent more specifically figured out, as well as a way to like publish videos and stuff like that. So if you have thoughts and you wanted to share, Tadas, go ahead. Also, or Rosmi, I shared a lot there, so I'm very curious to hear both of your thoughts.
yeah, I have ideas and what for some thoughts, but if I interrupted your conversation, Rosmari, go ahead.
Personally, from the topics proposed, I would like to speak the most about the seasons of Eden Fractal.
I personally think that we should start with a mission, and then might be easier to talk about the idea of seasons when we know what we want, what purpose Eden Fractal we want to serve. Yeah, and regarding the mission, like going into the meeting, I thought a little bit about it, and I think, well, if there were more people here, I would just ask everyone, like, what do they expect? What do they expect of Eden Fractal? Why do they still come, but they are not coming again? Yeah, so yeah, so general idea is that I think would be the best way to go. Like, ask individuals, like, at least, like, why did they used to come to Eden Fractal or something like that? And I think the mission should be like derived from that. Because personally, I have one kind of abstract mission that I could see Eden Fractal to go with, but I don't see if, and I know Eric has a similar idea, like basically research and development of fractal related ideas. We don't have any fractal that takes this general approach, and yeah.
Well, yeah, good points. Thanks for sharing. And I think, I mean, there's only so many people who are participating. And so I don't know, like, we've already asked people what they thought the mission should be. And we've had, I guess, like 4 or 5 meetings that were specifically devoted towards hearing at the mission. And if people aren't participating as much now, then I suppose it's mostly upon the people who are participating. I mean, it's not just us, of course, like Perry, Eric, Lisa, Space Ringer Joe. A lot of people have been stoking to see participating in most of the recent meetings. So, like, I brought this up figuring it's good to bring it up as a topic, and then we can just go from there and see what people are most interested in. So I agree asking the people who are currently participating often or still interested in following along and want to help guide the future of Eden Fractal, starting up a dialogue and seeing what people are most interested in doing. At the same time, I think it would be good to just formally have a mission, propose and approve a mission, because we've never actually done that. And even if it's not the perfect mission, we can always change it in the future. And just to get something going would be nice. And I think that, to Rosemary's point about like the seasons of Eden Fractal, I think it would be good to do that and like experiment it fairly soon. It's not a huge rush, but I think that would be a nice thing. And if we're able to have a mission going into that to give it more structure and more like playfulness and more fun going on with the seasons, going on with like the sports ideas and stuff too, then I think that would be a really cool thing. And my thought with the mission was that the term grow fractal communities, I know I've heard you mention, and several other people have mentioned, like I remember Pascal mentioned it several times, Vlad mentioned it, I think you, Eric, all kind of similar idea about like growing the fractal process or sharing fractal democracy or fractal cooperation or whatever people call it. And I kind of just embodied that with grow fractal communities. And I don't know if that's if that's too different from how you see it, in terms of it's not specifically about the researching of it, but to me it seems like the researching of fractal processes can be part of growing fractal communities, because like the ultimate goal is like, you won't, and it's what we've been doing largely. We've also been doing the research, but we've been growing Eden Fractal, we've been growing lots of different fractals, like we mentioned AW Fractal, Art Fractal, Aquadac, all these different things that have been growing from it because we've been seeing. So to me, it seems like growing fractal communities is a pretty elegant way to say that. That is nice. It also has that kind of growing of fractals kind of feeling too, and growing communities. And then whether people are doing the research part or if they're just not so much researching, but they just come and they want to start up a new fractal community, or they want to do some education or build a tool or whatever, then that all fits within the idea of growing fractal communities. So curious to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I agree. Growing fractal communities is the larger goal. But see, it's a goal that encompasses all fractals. So if our goal is that, then for me, more fitting structure would be like a kind of like higher order fractal that I suggested, where each fractal would have a representative, and basically you have fractals participating. And then I don't think like, I think meeting every week is too often, and seasons, like, I don't know, for me it would make more sense to have regular meetings but less often. Yeah, if we go that way, if we go with this general purpose of growing fractals.
I think too that growing fractals is too broad. And how would you measure that? Is it just to start the fractal, or?
No, I think growing fractals, like, well, it implies everything, like experimenting with governance, applying principles of democracy and so on. I think a broad goal is good, but it's a goal that encompasses all fractals, and then I think the structure should be different. It should be like fractals participating as opposed to individuals. Well, that's just my logic, that it's like something like fractal palooza that Eric was organizing.
Yeah, but how often do you? This is like, how often do you envision this to happen, for that group of fractals to come together? I think this is like an additional point to really the action of what these fractals are actually doing on a day-to-day basis. So I think we're one of those fractals that is going on a day-to-day basis. So for this particular Eden Fractal, we have to think about what is our mission or goal, because at this point I don't think there's not that many.
Yes, if you go that way, if you say that it's if Eden Fractal is just another fractal, then I think we should have a more specific goal than growing fractals.
Yeah, I agree. Because growing fractals is very broad for a specific fractal.
Yeah.
And for
yeah, I agree. But the reason I was starting to think about why growing fractals might fit, so you could we could either choose a specific, more specific mission, or we could stay broad with growing fractals. But then if it's that broad, I think we need to change the structure and make it less often. And the reason why I still think that this path might be good is because a lot of people come here from different fractals, at least used to come in the past last few months, and they were sharing their updates about fractals. I just noticed that. So I was starting to think it's already like becoming that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think that the seasons are at the moment I'm at the point where I think if we want to be the example, we have to have time to readjust and refocus, and having seasons is a way to do that distinguishment. And
yeah, but are we sure that people will come? Like I think what we have to start with is what need do we want Eden Fractal to serve? And if we don't introduce the need that is really needed by people, then people won't come. So I don't think it's enough for us to change, to have seasons. Like we have to admit that the attendance has been decreasing to Eden Fractal, and yeah, so for it to stay alive, I think we need to really find something that we need to start with a need that Eden Fractal could serve.
isn't the need to be the example of, if anyone wants to create a fractal, to see what Eden Fractal is doing and take the tools, take the games, take the structure and replicate it or improve it, or justify it to their needs. I think this is, in my head, this has been like what we want to provide as the best experience possible for other fractals to be able to replicate and copy what is working here or what is not working, to be able to define and have a clear vision on what they can take out from here. But I'm saying that for Eden Fractal to keep going and refining its processes, tools, articles, whatever we have done so far, it also needs some time off to do that, because otherwise I don't think we are reaching the best capacity possible to provide this example, because we can be improved. So that means that example can be further refined, and so that other fractals can take that example. And that way, if we think about how this meeting can be changed, not just the meeting but the process around it, then that will help to bring more clear definitions of how to grow fractals outside Eden Fractal. This is what I'm thinking. Eric,
Yeah, I understand, and I remember Eric expressed something similar, and here he is.
Little fractals are coming now.
Yeah, welcome, Eric. Yeah, I suppose there also might have been some confusion with the time too, because there's 2 time changes in the past week. Glad to see you joined us, Eric. We've been discussing next steps for Eden Fractal, and mission and intent and so forth. Hey. Yeah, so it started with just Rosmari and I, and Tadas joined. I gave a little presentation. And so when we have recorded it, so we can publish it, and yeah, and you can watch the full recording, the full discussion before you join. We've been here for like 45 minutes or so. But yeah, basically, we've been discussing, like, well, for one thing, we've been discussing like the mission of Eden Fractal and what role we'll serve, because there has been less people joining, and we want to provide value for people, of course, and specifying that is good. That's something we've discussed a lot, and Eric, you provide a lot of great feedback and wisdom about the vision and the mission. And so I have some comments I could share there to what Tadas and Rosmari just shared. I'll save that for a moment. We talked about the idea of growing fractal communities, and then we're also looking at next steps forward as far as like maybe having less recurring meetings. We're kind of throwing around two different ideas. One is having regular meetings but less often, maybe on like a bi-weekly basis, or perhaps a monthly basis. I know also Eric and Tadas had mentioned a few weeks ago about the idea of having a kind of a bi-weekly cadence where 1 week it's respect game and 1 week it's agenda. So that's another option too. I kind of like the idea of seasons, because I do think that could set an example. And this is like a sport, basically. I think we're trying to invent a new sport, and we already have in many ways, but we want to make it more of a sport that's like accessible. And there's millions and millions of people who understand sports leagues and MVPs and all-star games and stuff like that. I think if we could tap into that, that would be helpful. And then as far as the mission, well, Rosemary, you'd ask, how do we measure growing fractal communities? And I think that's part of the subjective part of the respect game too. So that's what I was trying to do by separate the mission from the intent, from the goal of the game, which I think makes sense. Whereas what I propose is to grow fractal communities as the mission, as well as make the best experience possible. But I'd be happy to shorten that or change that if we wanted to have grow fractal communities or something else like that. But having the goal of the game to do that, but then also help our community members too, so that in the game it's still open to individuals to help out.
So there's three things that when I do courses and businesses, there's kind of three foundations. One is constant wins. People want to see I showed up, I won. So by giving respect and points, that gets part of that there, because people get something. So, ooh, I won. Like, you wouldn't want to go to a basketball game where they just stopped and left and there was no win. It's like, okay, we played. We'll be playing next week and maybe after, game 6, then we'll tie up the score and tell you who won. People aren't. So that's one thing. The other thing is this idea of future self. How is my future self different by being part of this group? So that's something to consider. If it's just a social thing, then my future self is I make friends and I make connections, and that's great too. But the other thing is this unstoppable momentum, and that's what's died here. And one of the cardinal sins in business is throwing away momentum, because it's really hard to get started, to get everybody thinking and acting in a thing. So it's really hard to start momentum once it's lost. So one of the things that you normally do is build things in there to make sure that you have momentum. And momentum means we finished this project. Now you can do this. Now we can do that. So there's not really a feeling of progress here. There's the good things that are happening, but we just don't really measure it or have that feeling as a group. We don't have a feeling of group wins. Like, you've had celebrations before. We should be having these periodic celebrations because we're doing something. But even though lots happening and individually lots happening, we're just not making that part of our identity. Like, the first time you prototype the new tools, oh yeah, it should be if that's something we're trying to do. So to me, those are the three things that should be part of our DNA: is constant wins, future self, and unstoppable momentum. And by the way, the ideal momentum triggers are 90 days, just so you know. That doesn't mean you have to wait 90 days to have momentum, but for the big projects, 90 days is after practicing lots of different time frames. Anything longer than that is too long. People get burned out. Anything less than that, it's not a significant change. To make a real change takes about 90 days for most things. So, 90 days. So when we do these projects, we set 90-day goals, and then we track by month, kind of stop every month and say, here's what it is. And then what are we going to do this week to get to the month, to get to the 90 days? Don't know if that's helpful, but I've done a lot of projects that are like 2 to 3 years. That's kind of my sweet spot, 1 to 3 year projects. And that's just what I've learned in doing that. To keep momentum, 90 days seems to be the magic trigger for me for momentum.
Thank you, Eric. Really appreciate your insights. And I wrote some notes down there about constant wins, future self, unstoppable momentum. I'm curious if Tadas or Rosmari want to respond. I have some responses there. And also, if we wanted to, we could do respect gain now that we have 4 of us. So that's an option that I'll throw out there. And then, yeah, the conversation's been a little bit disjointed because we've been coming at different times. So it's like somebody joins and we kind of restarted it in another way. So apologies for any confusion there. And thanks to the time zone people who change the time zones. But I agree. And that's what I was thinking about with constant wins. I mean, I agree we want to improve on those parts. And part of the idea is why I made these proposals is to kind of go along with those, because I think some of those things you said before, and I've been kind of maybe internalizing them a bit. And I was thinking maybe with the seasons, we could have like a 90-day kind of cycle. And for each season, you could have like some sort of intent, or that's how the Optimism Collective do it. And I think that they have a lot of benefits there. Basically, they set intents for every season, and then they work towards those intents. They have metrics that they work to achieve those intents together. And then, yeah, constant wins that people earn respect every week. But I was also thinking with the playoffs, we could have like kind of like how we did the celebrations. We have the games, like the pitches game and the speeches game. So people have those wins in addition to the respect game every week, have like maybe a season where they're working to accomplish a goal together. They all determine the goal of that season, and they're all working together like a peloton. And then future self, like, well, that's something that I think we want to convey to the community. I don't know, and the goal of the game is to achieve our mission to help our community members. That's what I wrote. So helping our community members is like one thing where it's future self. By participating in this community, you have people helping you. Like that's one of the main goals of the community of the game. People get more respect based on helping people, as well as helping to grow fractal communities and you building these tools and media and so forth to help people cooperate and empower their communities with these too. So I don't know, maybe that's a bit of a stretch. Maybe you see it differently, or maybe Tadas or Rosmari have other thoughts too. I'm curious to hear, but those are some of my thoughts there.
To me, my future self is how many communities we help. So, optimism is a future self project, uplift, fractal. So if you just think of all the fractals, to me, that's the future self. The future self is a bunch of those fractals doing things, but the short term of that is let's get this one going, let's improve this. For me, the big thing, the reason I'm doing alien worlds is let's set up a methodology where we bring people in and help them just apply the fractal before they even think about doing their own fractal. Let's give them the benefit of the methodologies we do. And once they learn the benefit of that, eventually the momentum from there is, start your own fractal. You don't need to come to us to do that. So come to us, we'll help you make this decision, we'll help you solve this problem. But when you realize the value of that methodology, wouldn't you like to implement that yourself? So I'm still here because I still do that. I make my own constant wins. I do the future selves. I have a roadmap.
Yeah, same here too. That's a good point. I see Tadas unneeded. Do you want to comment on that, Tadas?
What's the difference between constant wins and momentum? It seems to me that it's like constant wins, it's like almost the definition of momentum.
No, the difference is with timing, because momentum is a constant win is an event, and momentum is about outcomes. You know, for example, if I teach somebody to use the fractal consensus tool and they walk out, that's a win. I now can do that. Before I couldn't do that, now I can do that. But think about constant wins this way. So you go take you want to be a doctor or something, so you go to school, so that gives you this degree. Well, what's next? Or what do I do now? Oh, well, this class allows you to take the advanced class. Well, what do I do now? Well, now you go to medical school. Well, now you can do this. So you know, if you had a business, let's think from a business perspective. You have a product and they just bought your product, and so now they're happy. Now what? If there's nothing else, if it's a one-time buy, they're going to go, oh, thanks, great doing business with you, love my product, see you. And they're not your customer anymore. But you say, hey, guess what's next? Now you can buy this, you can do this, you can take this training. In other words, there's always something next. So they have a constant path in the roadmap. So in other words, momentum is a roadmap thing. Event is a transactional. I did this, I can do, I know something, I do this, but it's not really, wins are not really a roadmap. There are things that you get on the way to a roadmap. It's how you define your journey. You know, the journey is we're going from where I live, San Diego, to San Francisco, and we're going to stop off and do this, and we're going to see Hearst Castle. Each one of those is this win. But when we get to San Francisco, if that's the end of our roadmap, then we go away. So momentum would be, now we can plan a different trip. So momentum answers the question of where do we go next? What's next? What's next? And constant wins are, what can I have right now? What can I have right now? In other words, if you have to work forever to get a win, people get burned out. They want to see, you know, what if you work for 6 months and then you get paid? You know, your 2-week paycheck is a constant win because you're seeing the result. So wins are kind of measurements to see that you're actually getting results from what you're doing. But if 90 days, what you're doing doesn't result in anything, then you start getting burned out. Am I explaining that better?
Yeah, I guess so. So
In other words, if you give somebody a project, you have to give them a scorecard or something on the way to that project, because if too much time has passed before they feel like we got something, then you start getting burned out. On the other hand, if you don't have a purpose for what you're doing, you'll get burned out too.
Yeah, so momentum is more about like more about achieving goals, having a journey, iterations, and so on, achieving something. Whereas constant wins is something you have to have in order to progress daily, let's say.
Yeah, to keep people interested. If you do lots of work and you don't see any results, so you need to break things in so you get a reward for that result. And the reward could be, congratulations, you now know how to do this, or congratulations, you just got a paycheck, or for us, congratulations, you just got respect points. So those are the respect points are constant wins for us because we did something, we got rewarded for it. We did something, we got rewarded for it. Now, if we did something, 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 and we're not feeling that reward, people get burned out.
For me, for me, it seems like it's like momentum and constant wins is very similar. It's just that constant wins is the same thing at the lower level of individual.
Yes. In other words, a big goal is done by achieving a lot of little pieces. And so you have to break up. It's really this idea. You need to break up a big goal into little pieces. so that people feel like you're moving somewhere. So there's a feeling of accomplishment doing things like that. But on the other hand, you need a goal or else people burn out too. So the key is if you achieve a goal, you need to make sure there's another goal right after that. Not hit people on the head, you can even take a break, but people have to feel like, oh, there's still somewhere else to go, or else, it's kind of like I won the game, I reached level, whatever, 6 in this game, and all right, so I don't want to play the game anymore. Then I'm out. It's like, all right, well, what's the next game? Oh, well, Modern Warfare 2 and then Modern Warfare 3, there's a new game. So that's what constant unstoppable momentum means, is that there's always a path forward. People don't feel like checking out because you finished a goal.
Yeah. So also constant wins are like quests within one game, and momentum could be seen as the next game.
Exactly. You got it. That's it. Exactly. You got it. Exactly. We played that game. When you play a game, you have to reach levels. You have to get rewarded while you're playing the game, or the game gets boring. But now we've reached the highest level of that game. What's the next game? You said it exactly. That's exactly what it is.
I see. Makes sense.
So to me, that's one of the powers of fractal governance, is when you think of the game that most people play at work, they work and work and work, and they kind of get paid, but they don't really get constant wins. They don't get rewards. And some companies don't have a career path. You reach this, and then what do I do next? Oh, there's no way to move up, and people leave. I can't go anywhere from here. I've learned my skills. I did everything you said. I'm at this level in the company, and I can't move up. Oh, I'll go find another company. So if you want them to stay with your company, you need to have a career path. I mean, that's just one example. So this is great because we can put this into any organization, and all of a sudden we are getting wins. People are getting rewarded, and people are talking. But the other thing is, because of the dialogue that we have here, it makes it easier for us to set up to figure out together what the next game is going to be. And that's something else that's also missing from business.
Yeah. So you would say that Eden Fractal has the constant wins component.
Yes.
But not momentum.
Yes, that's it exactly. What attracted people here right away is constant wins. People got really excited about, but I think the reason people aren't coming is because we don't have the unstoppable momentum. It's like, where are we going? I don't know. We get together, we talk. Now, I love talking to all of you anyway, so it's a treat for me. But just to learn from you guys and see what you're doing. But one of the challenges as we get busier. So I think as we start helping more people, I think 2 hours becomes really hard for people. So if you do 2 hours of here and 2 hours for Optimism, and 2 hours for Eden Fractal, and 2 hours for Zeos, and we can't help people. So I think the 2 hours a week is tough when we put it into play. So I could even do 2 hours a week because for me here, because here's the core thing. But the other ones, I'd rather see an hour because my week is really filled.
Mm-hmm.
Same. I see Rosmari's hand up.
Yes, great conversation. I agree and with Eric and Tadas about the momentum and constant wins. I do agree that we have constant wins here and momentum going, but also that momentum is not clearly defined every time, and it's not celebrated after every kind of cycle, because and we do kind of liking the celebration part, like the games and the fun, that in that feel of accomplishment, and maybe referring to the scoreboard or any other way to complement each other's efforts. And for that reason, I think to have more of a distinguished momentum, we need seasons. We need some form of way that we can specify goals in seasons, and those goals to be smart by specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And this is what I think is really lacking, and will provide more of a structure and more of a momentum of something to look up for, and help to better out the schedule and expectations of what's coming up, and will bring up the enthusiasm.
Yeah, good points. Thanks so much, Rosmari and Eric. And it's also my pleasure learning from you, Eric, too, and learning from everybody here. And good acronym there with the SMART, too. I wanted to chime in with a couple of additional suggestions here. One about meeting time. I agree, 2-hour meeting times is difficult, and we have shortened it. Eden Fractal meetings used to be like 3 hours or sometimes longer, but now they're 2 hours. And I'd be open to do shorter meetings too. Like if we wanted to just do an hour meeting for Eden Fractal, or I'm open to the idea of seasons, or if we want to do it 2 hours but have it once every couple of weeks, once every month. But also those run the risk of having less momentum too.
When people get out of habit,
Yeah.
they get out of habit. So
Mhm.
the problem with every other week is people get out of the habit.
Yep, that's true.
That's it. You could do that. Your chances of losing people just went up.
But I see the same problem with seasons as well.
Well, in either
Why?
case, you can promote it. And if you promote it well enough, then you can get the word out. And like we can see, for example, in sports that people get in the habit on a seasonal level. Like they don't go to any games during the winter time, but then when spring rolls around, they're still ready to go. So if it's well promoted enough and people see the value in it, then I think it could work either way, whether it's seasonal or like bi-weekly or whatever. But you just need to be careful about promoting it well enough.
What do you mean? What do you mean by seasons?
Oh, well, seasons, I see Gudasol joining that too. So nice to see people joining. So, well, a couple of different ideas. So one, I'm just thinking like, yeah, I suppose two different ways of viewing it. And welcome Gudasol. We're in a discussion right now talking about potential seasons of Eden Fractal, which is partially inspired by Gudasol with Aquadac too. And it's partially inspired by Optimism too. And it's partially inspired by sports and the stuff that you were saying a few weeks ago, Eric, about having wins and momentum and stuff like that, and the stuff that we've been talking about for the past year or so about Eden Fractal games, and how like I think in many ways what we're trying to do is like bring a new sport to the world and bring a new kind of social game to the world, and we can learn a lot from other games. Like it's a different kind of game. Obviously, it's not like we're running on a field kicking a ball right now, but we're still playing a game. It's a respect game, and maybe a lot of the things that sports leagues have been doing for a while regarding having a season, and then they at the end of the season they have playoffs and they have a World Cup or whatever it is. Like these are things that might be able to help increase momentum and get people rallying around a common cause, and also tap into that thing that we know millions of people enjoy. In my experience with Aquadac, Gudasol's done 3 different seasons so far, and each season he's kind of changed around how it works and spoken with the community about how it can work best for the community based upon where everybody's at the time. And then lastly, in my experience with Optimism, Optimism is now in their 5th season of governance, and they're also in their 3rd round of retro PGF. So, and they talked a lot about how having these different iterations of what they do for each few months enables them to be more proactive in like changing the way it works and kind of rallying the community around a cause. I'll share my screen real quick just to show you an example of what it is with Optimism, because I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot we can learn. Like they just published this post last month about collective intents for season 5. You can check out like the past ones, but they have these 4 intents, and then for everybody who applied for retro PGF or applied for the grants council or applied for anything else, they all have to like kind of go with these intents, and they have progress towards technical decentralization, grow the super chain, improve the consumer experience, improve governance accessibility, and then they have a blog post about each one of those. And obviously we don't need to do so much, and our intents, or if we did a season, would be different. This is just an example, but they have for each one, they have like measurements about like number of new wallet addresses who are verified to be human, the number of repeat transactions, and improving governance accessibility, have accessibility of like how many people are voting and stuff like that. So those are ways, going back to what Rosmari was saying about smart, about like verifiable. I don't think that's in the word smart, but like measurable and stuff like that. These are like ways that they're having specific measurements and they're having specific intents, and they're setting these each season, so they change them each season too. So that's an idea of something that we could do, taking inspiration from sports and playoffs and stuff like that, taking inspiration from Aquadac and taking inspiration from Optimism to do a kind of a seasonal approach for Eden Fractal. And I suppose in Eden Fractal, just last thought there was, if we did have our intents, like say, for example, grow fractal communities, then we could measure like how many fractal communities do we grow? And that might be going to your momentum idea about making momentum, or how many collaborations that we foster, or how many, I mean, it's also not just about quantifying, it's all qualifying it too. Thanks so hard for
I think with the amount of people we have, I think if you just figure out what our goal is for 90 days, kind of like Gudasol is doing, and go on that. I think that's the key, is you say in 90 days, what do we want to do? And before that 90 days over, we need to figure out, well, what does the next 90 days look like? What do you want to do? But I don't think we can have as many goals as Optimum has, because we don't have the people.
Yeah.
That many. For example, if we were to start today, what could we do with 5 people in 90 days? I think that would be the question that we would want to use a fractal method to come up with. And no wrong answers, just what do we want to do? And then keep in mind that within what the group wants to do in 90 days, individuals want to do things that may not be the group thing, but that doesn't mean, you know, Rosmari can't help Dan on something she's also interested in, Eric can't help Tadas, and Gudasol can't help Eric. So there's a good way to air those things. But, you know, from a group perspective, what does a 90-day win look like for us? And just coincidentally, that's a season, 3 months. There you go. Whether you call them, you know, 90-day cycles or seasons, doesn't matter.
I see Tadas raises hand. Tadas?
Yeah, so for me, one argument to not enforce like any kind of strict seasonal structure would be that in this space, I think it's very hard to plan. A lot of innovation happening, a lot of new ideas, and maybe like after 3 months, we have a totally different structure in mind, and I don't know. Like, I want to offer another perspective inspired by biology. Basically in evolution, success of an organism is to replicate, and then it usually dies. So if Eden Fractal, if we look at Eden Fractal this way, it is successful, because there are multiple other fractals that basically produced. There are people from Eden Fractal which helped build replicas of Eden Fractal, Alien Worlds Fractal, Optimism Fractal, and so on. And yeah, so that would be one way to like produce a kind of momentum retroactively, just put in this narrative that Eden Fractal's experiment is successful. Now, I would still, maybe what the next step could be is just to stop it for a while, and then let's create Eden Fractal version 2, which integrates all the best new technologies that people are currently rolling out. And yeah, just the best new ideas, and then yeah, which would hopefully inspire other fractals to take them on. And yeah, it's kind of like seasonal approach. I just don't know if we I just wouldn't plan ahead more than one season. just say that we are stopping it for a while, and then maybe we will launch Eden Fractal version 2, or we can call it season 2, whatever.
Just so you know, whenever you stop anything for a while, that's a reason for a lot of people never to come back.
Well, we can present it as a new fractal. I don't know if it matters that much. We still have I don't know, that's a good question, like how do we want to present it?
Well, another reason why I suggested the season concept is because, and so far we've just done 100 and, or not 100, we've done basically a year and a half of every weekly meeting, or meeting every single week. And that included like the holiday season last year. When we had it on like the day after New Year's, the day before Christmas, all these things like that. I don't remember exactly what the dates were, but normally like people do like to have some time off for working, or like just to chill and relax. And some people didn't go, but there was still a lot of interest in it. So we decided to keep going. And so my thinking was that if we did do a seasons thing, like we could have like a little playoff kind of season where it's like specifically, well, one of the things is like we're all very aligned to grow fractals, and to like we're all like experts in fractals, and we have an opportunity where when we're here together to promote that and to explain that. And so just provide a bit more information about my idea about the playoffs. It was like basically we could do like kind of a pitches game or a speeches game, in addition to the respect game, where people just share like why fractals are helpful. And we say like have prompts like about how can it help grow your community and so forth. And then these are videos that we could produce to help inspire and educate other fractals in the future. So that was kind of like one of the ideas. And we have like a special event where we're playing a new kind of game on a weekly basis and doing different kinds of challenges to prompt each other. Because a lot of things we need to explain better too, like figuring out how to best explain the respect game to people. And everybody here can have their own perspectives on how to do that. So my thinking was if we have the seasons like that we do, where we have a playoff season and then we come back and we take a break for the holiday season, because I think that's something that probably a lot of people would appreciate. And then we reorient it with like a season for next year, then that could be a way where we're taking some time to upgrade, taking some time to off and regroup, but then also communicating in a way that's not like, I don't think it's good to stop Eden Fractal because there's so much great stuff about it. And it has all the history and all the existing branding and stuff like that. And yeah, it's true, like animals do reproduce and then die, but like there's different life cycles, and a lot of like companies and brands and organizations and stuff, we're not really an organization or a company, but we're a community, but they last for a lot longer than a year and a half. I think that Eden Fractal can have a very fruitful future and grow much more, both in terms of growing new fractals and producing seeds for new fractals, but also growing to be like a wonderful garden and a wonderful tree, or whatever the metaphor is, where people can enjoy it too. So I'm open to different options, but to me, it seems like maybe that would work well if we're able to communicate it well in terms of a season. Just also, Tadas said, bringing the new tools and innovations, but also having it maybe where we're communicating that way, where it's going on and we're just upgrading and bringing new excitement with these new ideas. Curious to hear your thoughts about that. Seems like maybe Eric's inspired. Also, Rosmari shared an interesting screenshot that I can share at some point too, but SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant in time. So I could screen share that if you all want to see it, because it's quite interesting. It might be helpful for us if we want to create some goals.
So, when I teach my marketing students, I have them create businesses, and we actually have them do a marketing plan for the business. And they always put lots of detail. We're going to do this, and I'm going to reward my employees by this, and we're going to offer 2 for 1. And I always ask them, why do you think any of that works? Why do you think any of that's going to work? How do you know? Why do you think that people are going to be motivated by this? And they're basically just taking stuff they've ever heard or thought of and dumping it. And I said, that's all good stuff and they might work. But the key is you don't start a business by just doing lots of activity and trying to think things through, because you don't know whether it's going to work or not. Having the business goals and trying those things and seeing if they work. But my question is always, well, why are you doing this in the first place? What's the purpose? And if the purpose is just to do things, then I always say, well, to me, that's then a test. do something and see if it works, as opposed to planning something in depth and just because it sounds good and you like activity. So we have to, I guess we have to be cautious about activity for activity's sake. It's more like, where do you want to go, and what activities are going to get you there? Oh, let's try this one.
Yeah, I agree. We have to start with the need that is present, and that's one way to look at it. We have to start with a need that is, say, present in fractal ecosystem, and we have to say we are serving that need, and then we organize activities based on that. Now, if more different kind of games that the kind of games that Dan is suggesting is what is needed, expected from people, then it might be a good idea to do what Dan
for me,
suggesting.
and again, this is just my perspective, because I view this, just cards on the table, is the R&D group for all fractals. This is where we do just basic fractal R&D, with the purpose for me is to rolling this out to other fractals. So the method, the view of success for me is does this work with another organization? Can we have we helped another organization do something? So for me, it starts with, well, what is the problem we're trying to solve? How can we problem? Oh, we think this game will solve that problem. Oh, let's try it out. So, a 90-day or season could be, we're going to try out this game, or we're going to try out a series of games to do this. Our goal is to come closer for solving this problem. And so it could be a season of solving this problem. And there's all kinds of problems. There's onboarding problems, there's voting problems, there's decision-making problems, there's analyzing the proposals, there's proposal problems. There's all kinds of problems we're not even close to solving, and they're all good problems. But now what's even better is we can bring those from other fractals in and say, tell us about, look who we have here. We have Optimism and Aquadac right here. What are your problems that Eden could help you with? I mean, to me, a great thing to do would be get our list of problems from the other fractals.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
So we should be, to me, we're the ones that solve the infrastructure, tools, and methodology problems for all the other fractals. And we get that by saying, oh, what's working really well for you and what's challenging.
Yeah, and it gets back to what Rosmari was saying as well, that before you came, Eric, that Eden Fractal could be like an example for other fractals. All the new stuff gets tried here, and other fractals integrate.
Yeah, think of it, if you're familiar with servant leadership. In servant leadership, the leaders don't work, the employees don't work for the leader works for the employees. So what do the employees or customers, we work for the customer. So what do the customers need? Well, before there was just us. So, we were our own customer, but now we have other potential customers.
So I think I like this idea. So we could simply like approach it this way, like figure out what other fractals need before starting a new season, and then start a new season on Eden Fractal with a clear mission statement for the season to do that, to solve that problem. And that's how Eden Fractal could stay like at the bleeding edge of fractals as well.
And so part of our task is to constantly talk with other fractals, find out how they're doing, and then our group is to come up together and say, here's all the potential problems we've identified. Which one do we want to tackle together for the next period, say 90 days? And then when that's done, but toward the end of that time, we already have the first problems that we had, so we can update and validate those. We can go talk, and so by the end of the first season, we have an updated list of what people want. And then this is for the second season, we figure out which one of these do we want to do. So part of it is constantly doing research on what people need. Which by the way, is what I've done a lot of.
Do you have a list?
No, but I mean, I've done a lot of this with organizations using what's called, the problem is most people do feedback surveys and they just say, tell us how we're doing and, you know, talk about that rather than talking about them. Because the problem is when you do these kind of things, most groups don't know what they need. So to try and force what they need out of them is a bad idea. You know, for example, you know, Henry Ford, there's actually no evidence he said that, has is attributed with this quote that I don't need to ask people for what they need, because if I asked what they need, they just would have told me they wanted a faster horse. And but I don't think he actually ever said that. The other thing is that they say, well, Steve Jobs said is you can't ask people what they need, you have to show them. And Steve Jobs pretty much reverse track 180. You know, he said the customer comes first. It's all about that. So if you look at his, he even said, yeah, I violated that. So if you look at the end, so the problem is that if Henry Ford had asked his customers what they needed, they couldn't tell them what they need, but could they say, you know, the problem is this horse thing makes too much mess. I don't like cleaning it up. It takes too long to get me. I really want to do a lot of business appointments and it takes too long. I don't like that when I get to these appointments, you know, somebody has to watch the horse. I don't like out in the weather, then I get cold. More on, the reason Henry Ford lost, you know, he said they can have a, you know, the car in any color as long as it's black. You know, he made the Model T, and but people wanted more color, more, they wanted financing, and so Oldsmobile and others just took away most of that market because he didn't listen to what the customers want. They couldn't have told him, oh, we want a loan program like this, we want that, but so they can tell you what their problems are. And marketers have to turn what they like and what they don't like into, oh, what does that product look like to do that? They won't usually tell you what they need, but they'll tell you what they hate, what's inconvenience, what they're worried about, if you know how to ask those questions right.
All right. Great discussion. Thanks so much, Eric and Tadas, for all the thoughts, and Rosmari. And hopefully everybody's been enjoying watching and listening so far. I've been learning a lot and very inspiring. I could go on and share some ideas and thoughts I'm going to be writing maybe after today's meeting about next steps and intents, encourage everybody else to do so in the mission and what we should do. And it'd be very interesting to hear more thoughts about this in the Telegram group. We still have to about 12 minutes left or so we can continue here. If anybody wants to respond or add any more thoughts. I also want to just put out a couple of comments. One, Rosmari wrote after sharing the SMART chart about specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely goals and targets. She wrote, yes, let's make it fun, which is also a big part of it, which I think should be focused. I remember Pascal was saying that he thinks that should be one of the main focuses of Eden Fractal, and we have a lot of people who love to have fun here. We have some great games. So in addition to helping people with fractals, I think that should be a big part of it too, and that also goes along with the ideas about wins and your future self and so forth, because everybody wants to have more fun and enjoy it while they do it. So we haven't yet had a I mean, we've had a lot of fun here and there, but we haven't focused fully on just a new kind of game since back in the anniversary, which was almost 6 months ago now. Also, I want to welcome once again Gudasol. If there's anything you want to chime in before we wrap it up, then we'd be happy to hear from you. I hope you've been enjoying the discussion in your week. The Aquadac meeting, by the way, Gudasol has been doing really cool stuff with the Aquadac Mastermind course and publishing that on the Aquarius Academy YouTube channel, or maybe the Aquadac one. So yesterday we talked about marketing with Gudasol and myself and Rosmari and Corellia. So thanks so much, Gudasol, for sharing that. Really appreciate it, and good and great to see you. And then a couple more quick comments. I see you just joined, raise your hand, so I'll pass it over to you in a moment, Gudasol. But first, I also just want to say, with 10 minutes left, we didn't play the respect game today, so I guess we'll just skip the respect game. We don't need to do the respect game, but if we wanted to just do a really quick ranking or something like that, we could. And also, we do have enough people for proposals here. Previously, I said that we didn't, but now we do have enough delegates. So if we did want to, I don't think we have consensus about any proposals, but I want to put that out there. And I think that Eric might be hosting an event in 10 minutes. I'm not totally sure, so I suppose we should probably wrap it up pretty soon. But those are kind of just my comments there. If anybody has any comments that you want to respond to, I don't know if Eric is hosting an event this week. I know you did last week.
Not because I'm actually have a medical thing, so
Okay.
I won't be able to. But we will be next week. And by the way, I would love to have an object or a image from Aquadac and Optimism and Eden to post in the new 3D Center for Governance. So if you give me one you'd like, I mean, I can pick one, but I'd rather you say this is what I like, and we'll post it on the wall somewhere, and then we'll tell everybody to go find them. So
Nice.
last week we had our unveiling of the sneak peek, and there's a lot of the objects are gone, but there's still a cake there that you can find and things like that. And we built portals to Ike Valley. So making it fun, this is part of that idea. But coming up next, we're hopefully going to put in offices for all the fractals within our 3D framework too.
Very cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say hi to everybody. It's good to see you all. Glad I got to catch the sort of end and hear a lot of the discussion. I think Eric brings up a lot of really good points. Yeah, like that's just like the things you have to understand to keep going. And I encourage more ideas from you, Eric, as well as I'm enjoying interacting with the stuff that you're doing. So keep inviting me and I'll keep showing up. And yeah, Tadas, I think that's a really good idea about the like thinking about things in terms of life and what are the traits that we're passing on as well. And, you know, going to Eric's start, that becomes your core value that you provide. And then you have to improve what that core value is, while at the same time understanding your weaknesses and trying to pull in strengths to deal with that. So yeah, that's my little chime in, and good to see everybody. Good to see you, Dan, Tadas, Rosmari, and Eric as well.
Well, and keep in mind that Gudasol has nailed the future self part of it. His whole thing is all about why are you here? It's all about your future self. So he's nailed that part of it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the last thing I want to say is with the month, with the goals, I think that it's a really good idea to have that season like you're talking about. Just because of that, like you have that future self that has a definite sort of metrics, and then you can add those SMART goals as well. So yeah, I love the discussion and just wanted to sort of support what everybody else was saying.
And Jorge does a great job of future self too. I'm a merchant. My future self is I'm a merchant that makes more money, that has more contacts, that, you know, so.
So future self is about presenting how an individual participating will transform themselves. Or
you got it. How am I different by being here? What is the transformation this group is going to do for me? And I think for us, it's about being of service. But I just throw that out there.
I think it's that. I also think Tadas came up with a great word, or he didn't come up with the word, he didn't make it up. People have known it, but he wrote it and discovered it kind of for the Eden Fractal about awarding public goods creators, which I think we should lean into more as well. How, like you said, people get the weekly wins, are getting respect, and respect is a form of reward. And then there's a burgeoning, growing ecosystem of public goods funding mechanisms in Web3. We've been focusing a lot on optimism. And there's also Gitcoin, but just by the way, Gitcoin, there's one more day to register for Gitcoin GG 19 if he wants to. I think there's about $600,000 of funding available there. I'm planning to apply later today. But there's Octant, there's Giveth, there's a bunch of other ones that are funding more. So I think that Eden Fractal can play a role in both providing people a place of service where they are doing good things for the world and good things for others. Also collaboration and meeting people. That's another win. That is their future self. They meet amazing innovators, amazing builders, and network, and then also being awarded for doing good. And those awards can be noticed by funding mechanisms as well. So I'd say that those things are things that we could further elaborate upon to explain how being and participating in Eden Fractal meetings can be beneficial for people's future selves as well.
And by the way, next week's event, which was going to be this week's event, so I had a medical thing scheduled, is about funding panel. So I hope you'll be there to talk about help people put optimism and other funding together.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll be there. And I wish you the best with your medical stuff too. I hope that goes well.
It's more annoying than dangerous.
Okay. Yeah, I've been to that kind of thing before. But hopefully the annoyance won't be too much, and I look forward to the events next week. I suppose too, by the way, we talked about maybe changing the structure of Eden Fractal as far as maybe doing bi-weekly or something like that at some point, or the seasons, but I think that for now we'll just keep with the current schedule, and so we'll have our next meeting at 16 UTC on next Wednesday, and then we can return to these discussions. And yeah, if anybody wants to start writing like an outline of some ideas or a plan, or how much you want to go for it, if you want to help lead the vision of the community, then feel free to do so. I'd appreciate if anyone wants to bring up some ideas. I can also repropose some of these topics that I made or think about them over again. But if we make this a community effort where anybody who's inspired to share and help guide the direction, then we can discuss it next week. And then perhaps if we do change the schedule or something like that with seasons or a change in cadence or whatever, then we can figure that out at next week's meeting in the coming weeks as well.
Well, and the other reason that I recommended us going to an hour and figuring out how to do this thing in an hour is because the people I talked to said that's the problem they gave me. Yeah, I love the idea, but we need to do it in an hour. So it's not whether we need to do it in an hour or not, but if we take a servant leadership approach and we're trying to help people, if we can't do it in an hour, how can we help them do it in an hour? So that was my primary motivation for bringing that up.
I mean, we do have everybody, well, not everybody, but we have enough delegates to pass a proposal now. So if we did want to change the time in the next four minutes, rather than, I don't know you're rushing at all, but I'd be up to do it in a shorter time too. Like I feel like doing two plus hours was very helpful in the beginning to some extent, when there was a lot of people and there was a lot of like discussion and all sorts of stuff. But now I feel like
Well, there's
we've been successful
wrong.
in doing it in an hour before, and we could do it here.
When I did the art fractal, we in the test platform that I did, we did it all in an hour, but then I had, all right, business meeting is done, and then people hung around for another hour. That's okay. Mm-hmm. Some people left. No, I gotta go. So it's not that you can't have a meeting open that long, but if you make it so all the things that people need to show up are done in an hour, that's why in that we target this idea of, appreciation 1 week and decision making the next week, and then people hung around for 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour. I just said the meeting room is open from here to here, business meeting, first hour.
Yeah, good point. That's something similar to how we've been doing with Optimism Collective too. We've just been doing a 1 hour meeting with the Respect game every week. We're also thinking about maybe doing another thing too, like a little pitch session and maybe adding to it at some point. But yeah, I think we could do Eden Fractal meetings an hour too. I mean, we also do have a nice system here too, where people don't have to join both sessions. There's Respect game and the agendas, so people are welcome to just join for the second half or the first half. But I suppose we can reconsider that. And maybe, I mean, if you all want to do an hour meeting next week, then I'd be happy to pass a quick proposal. But I suppose I'm happy to be here for 2 hours next week as well. And then we can discuss it. And maybe in future weeks, we can talk about reducing the time. Does anybody have any strong opinions about that? Or any strong thoughts or anything else you want to share before we wrap it up?
I think it would be useful to continue this discussion about next steps for Eden Fractal. And I would even prefer that over respect game for next week as well.
Okay. So you think that we should skip the respect game next week and just talk about this or play by ear?
I don't know if enough people come. I don't know if we should change the structure like this. Maybe if enough people come in time, maybe we should play the respect game. But yeah, I don't know. I guess we will have to decide next week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll play it by ear and we'll see how it goes next week. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward. I agree that having discussions will be, I think it's a really helpful way to go. So I really appreciate all of you, Eric, Tadas, Gudasol, Rosmari, and everybody out there who is watching. Thanks so much for all the great discussions. And thanks so much for being here on the journey and helping out Eden Fractal. Does anybody have any last thoughts before we wrap it up or anything else? Looks like Rosemary's good. Looks like Eric is chilling. He's relaxed. He's ready to go chill on the couch or something. No, I'm just joking.
Thanks for the meeting, everyone. I think I learned something. I got some ideas about like where we should go with thinking on this. Let's continue the discussion.
Likewise. Sounds great. Looking forward to continued discussions. I suppose we can wrap it up then. Or we could say grow Eden Fractal, goodbye. Thanks everybody. Yeah. I don't know. 1, 3, 2, 1. Go Eden Fractal. Go everybody. Go to Tadas. Go Eric. Go Rosmari. Go to Gudasol.
Go Eden Fractal.
Go Eden
Fractal.
Fractal.
We can do it together.
Yeah. All right. Ready? 3, 2, 1, 0. Go
Eden
Fractal.
Fractal.
Woohoo! All right. Thanks everybody, and see you next week.
See you guys.
Peace
Peace.
and love.
Peace and
Bye-bye.
love.